everyone. It's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And this video is going to be a little bit different. And I know I've been saying that a lot lately because I've really been experimenting with different types of content and different video concepts and styles and things like that on this channel. And I appreciate your positive feedback and your suggestions and your video requests so much. It really helps to drive the content that I create on this channel because after all, it is for you. So this is going to be, again, another one of those videos where I just want to talk through something. And I have my, water here. If you want to pause this, grab a coffee, grab a drink. I really want this video to feel like we're sitting across from each other and, having a drink, having a coffee, and having a conversation as friends. Because this is a conversation that I wish somebody had had with me at the start of my business. It would have made things a lot easier and it would have prevented me from having so many sleepless nights of wondering if I should give up, if I should keep going, what the point of all this even is. Especially, as a parent of small children, it can be really difficult to find the motivation to keep going, even when it gets super difficult every single day, when you're dealing with parents that complain all the time, when you're dealing with complaints and negative feedback and one broken toy after another and staff difficulties and issues. And now in my online business, I'm always dealing with a full inbox. I'm dealing with tech glitches. I'm dealing with all sorts of things behind the scenes. And I really want to talk about what helps me push through it. So I want to talk about the why behind our business. And before you skip this video because you feel like you've had this conversation or heard this topic talked about by every entrepreneur in this space, my take on it is a little bit different. And I have also had, I've listened to all the podcasts, I've listened to all the videos, and none of that really worked for me. Nothing that I've found has really resonated with me. So I had to put my own little spin on it. And I'm sure someone else is, talking about doing it this way, but this is what really works for me in this season of life. And because a lot of you guys are also parents and also business owners or prospective business owners, I have a feeling that this process will resonate with a lot of you as well. And the reason that I thought about doing this video was because, well, first of all, I was listening to a podcast the other day on Donald Miller's podcast. It was all about preparing for a recession. It was such a good podcast. I definitely took some notes from it and I quoted it in my podcast episode about preparing your business for a recession. And I think I posted a YouTube video too. But it was a podcast episode with Alex Hormozy. He wrote this book, $100 Million Offers, which I have. I love it. And he was kind of talking about a trend that he sees with business owners during a difficult cycle because the economy, everything like that is very cyclical. It has natural cycles. And he was kind of talking about some things that he saw during the pandemic and what he expects to see coming up to the recession. And what he said hit me so hard because he said so many business owners who are, in the trenches, who are struggling, who are maybe working a little bit harder than they'd like to and are wanting to give up. They're just waiting for that reasonable, that valid, that understandable excuse to give up. So he was saying that in the pandemic, I think he said like 35% of all gyms closed and 85% of the gyms that closed were within the first month of the pandemic. So that first month where they were no longer able to do business. And again, they were just waiting. They were waiting for that excuse to come along. They were waiting for that very valid reason. And while he, commends all of them for making that difficult decision to close their doors, it's never easy. It's always a huge risk to your personal livelihood and your family and your future endeavors. But he kind of said something, and this is what hit me. He said, just because your reasons or your excuses are valid or reasonable doesn't mean that you should listen to them or doesn't mean that you should pursue them. And he was kind of saying, people come to me with excuses all the time, and a lot of them make sense, but that doesn't mean that I should listen to them or that I should encourage them to listen to their excuses. So again, I've been through so many difficult seasons in my business, whether it was a recession, we went through not quite the pandemic, but we went through a really difficult flu season. I had a really difficult pregnancy. I gave birth to a special needs son. He was, very high needs right from the beginning. We had daily doctor's appointments for some physical issues that he was having. He was in a body cast for like 12 weeks. And I can't tell you how many times I wanted to give up. And everybody would have understood. Everybody would have validated me like, oh, of course, I totally understand that you want to close your doors. This must be so difficult for you. How could you possibly manage? And while I did end up ultimately selling my business, that was a decision that I didn't make out of fear. I didn't make it out of, a difficult season. I made it, it was a 2-year journey. It was a 2-year decision. It was very well planned and it was profitable in the end. So what I want to encourage you, especially for those of you in a difficult season, is find something that helps you push through it. And again, now I want to talk about what kind of helped me get through those seasons and what still continues to help me get through difficult seasons today. Because again, we all have terrible days, we all have terrible seasons, and I can't tell you how many times I wanted to give up in my online business and in my brick and mortar business. And again, we're going to talk about creating the why behind your business. So something that I hear from a lot of my students, because something I teach, like I think it's in like module 1, lesson 1 of my course, before we get into any of the business specifics or anything like that, I ask people to define why they're doing this. And, I go through the whole exercise in there, so I'm not going to do it here, but a lot of people will say, in the group, or they'll email me, they'll say, well, I want to do this for my family. I want to do this so that I can save for my kids' future. Or I want to do this because my kids can have a safe place to play, or something like that. Or because there's nothing like this in our area, which I literally just created a YouTube video recently about how often I hear that sentiment from parents is, oh, we have nothing like this in our area. I think this could be really profitable. But to me, all of those reasons are very surface level. And even though, of course, I'm, working, I'm creating my business to provide for my family, to me, that was never specific enough or actionable enough or practical enough or specific enough to really like pull me out of those dark seasons and to like make me snap out of my haze whenever I wasn't feeling inspired, or when I was feeling unfocused, or when I was falling into really unhealthy, really detrimental habits. That wasn't enough for me. And I don't know if it's because I'm like a Virgo and I need details or specifics, but again, I hope this resonates with you. If you have that similar feeling that, providing for your family is great, but it's not really the thing that clicks in your mind. So for me, I have to think of more micro goals. I have to think of things that are very specific and very actionable. And again, they're always changing. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of my whys right now. And I'm not one of those people that's going to pretend like I wake up and journal every day or anything like that. I absolutely don't. And I'm not like a woo-woo type person generally. But when I'm feeling, again, very unmotivated or very stuck, I will write these couple things down either in my notepad, on my phone, or in a physical notebook, or I'll say them out loud. I'll write them on, I have a wipe off board sitting right in front of me. Sometimes I'll write them there. So I wanted to give you a couple examples of things that really help me to push forward. As we're coming up to a recession, I thought this was a very timely video. So again, even though this isn't my normal content, I hope you appreciate it. So a lot of you guys know, if you follow this channel, that I have an autistic 6-year-old son. His name is Silas, and he is absolutely wonderful. Now, I never like to use the term low functioning or high functioning, but Silas's autism presents in a way that makes him have a lot more needs than the average child. His needs are pretty significant, and we at this point have no visibility into what his quality of life is going to look like, what the future is going to look like, the level of care that he's going to need, all that stuff. So to me, my biggest why right now, especially in regards to him, is that, first of all, having an autistic child, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's very difficult. But you know what makes it a lot easier? And, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but I mean, this is like, again, we're sitting across from each other as friends having coffee. But you know what makes having an autistic child a lot easier? Resources. And you do know what makes, getting these resources a lot easier? Money. So whenever I feel unmotivated to create, a new offer, or to send that email, or to hop on here and record this video. I don't look like this every day. I don't do my hair every day. I don't do my makeup every day. Usually I just wear yoga pants. But what motivates me is thinking, there are so many things that I've been able to provide to him, that I've been able to do for him, that I would have never been able to do had I not worked so hard in my business. Like, for example, during the pandemic, when they weren't doing any, or a lot of face to face therapies, they were doing teletherapy. He was really struggling with it. And also, he would not, I mean, we tried everything. We tried all of the hacks, all of the tips, and he just would not wear a mask. He would not do it. So during the pandemic, we actually picked up all our stuff and we literally lived in an Airbnb for 4 months in South Carolina because they had a lot stricter mandates. You weren't required to wear masks anywhere. I mean, wasn't in 2020, this was in 2021. So it wasn't, the peak of the pandemic. I didn't, put my son in danger or anything like that. So don't come for me. But in early 2021, I think it was early February, we picked up and we spent 4 months in South Carolina to get him a private therapist, which, yes, was very expensive. It was crazy expensive and it was not covered by insurance. And we were able to afford that exorbitant Airbnb rent because I've worked so hard in my business. And I think that he really prevented a lot of regression during the pandemic because I was able to provide those resources. So thinking of those specific examples really, really helps me when I am stuck or feeling unmotivated. And for my other son, another example is, a lot of people talk about how difficult it is to have, a child with special needs, but it's also very hard for the siblings. And our older son, Ben, he doesn't necessarily love having friends over all the time because he knows that his brother is unpredictable. He often has tantrums. He's often very loud. And he often really wants to like play alongside Ben and his friends. And he doesn't really understand if Ben wants some alone time or privacy. So another one of my whys is I really want very soon to be able to finish our basement because Ben, you can just tell, and he says this to me all the time, he really wants our house to be kind of like that meeting ground where all of the neighborhood kids, and there's so many kids in our neighborhood, we're so lucky. He wants all the kids to be able to come over and he doesn't want to stress about if it's going to overstimulate his brother or if it's going to cause, a huge issue or anything like that. So one of my big whys this year specifically is I want to finish our basement so that Ben has more space to bring friends, to separate himself when he needs a break. If, he wants to do an activity that is a trigger to Silas or something like that, like for example, playing his Oculus. Silas will often, get too close to a space and that will cause Ben to like hit him with his arm or something like that. And it's so frustrating for both of them. So I really am highly motivated to make enough money this year to finish our basement. And my big why is because I want to give Ben everything that he wants and deserves. And again, sure, both of those fall under the umbrella of providing for my family, but they're not in the now enough. They're not specific enough. Like, yes, of course, I want to be able to leave enough money so that even if Silas needs 24/7 lifelong care, that he's provided for, nobody has to worry about him. My kids aren't going to have to, or my, other son or my grandkids or whoever, they're not going to have to worry about, providing for him. We're not going to have to worry about where he ends up or what type of place or anything like that. Sure, that is absolutely a motivating factor. And I'm so lucky to have recently found a financial planner that specializes in that type of thing. But I really, again, my brain works in the now and I need something specific that I can work towards, that I can see myself approaching. So again, before it was providing resources for Silas and his autism. And right now it's for Ben, giving him that space that he needs to really thrive as a energetic and outgoing 8-year-old kid. And another, example, again, I'm hoping that these kind of get your wheels turning, but another why around my business is, I'm so lucky to still have both my parents, but they're not going to be around forever. They're going to start aging. They're going to start needing rides to appointments. They're going to start needing to be cared for. And one of the other motivating factors right now, today in my business, is giving myself the time freedom to take both my parents or, my child, anyone I love the fact that I can drop everything at any given moment, of course, unless I'm watching my kids, they'd have to come with me, of course, semantics, but um I love that I can, I'm my own boss. I work with very limited one-on-one clients. I can drop everything and run to my parents' house if I need to. I can rush to my child's school if I need to. I can attend every in-school party. If my son's teacher reaches out to me and says, "Oh, we're going on a parade, we're going to do a parade or something," which has happened. We think Silas might be uncomfortable. I can go there and support him. So it's not just the financial freedom and the resources that a business provides that can be motivating. It's also the time freedom. I want to be able to be there to support my kids, to support my parents, to support my husband should they ever fall ill, should they ever need, a higher level of care than they do now. So it's not just about the money. So when people come to me and they say, well, my why is, I really want to provide for my kids' future, or this business just really seems profitable. Those people that have those more, lofty goals, visions, those are the ones that typically tend to give up at the first sign of hardship or after the first couple years of hardship. And again, I'm not knocking anyone that has ever closed their business because, been there. But again, I wish that somebody would have had this conversation with me to encourage me to sit down and say, not what are you working for 20 years from now? What are you working for today? What are you working for tomorrow? What would success in your business mean for you? What difference would it make? Not necessarily in, some far off distant date, but what difference would an extra $5,000 make in your life today? What difference would $10,000 make? And again, that's what drives me. And what I again like to do is every couple months, because again, these are always changing, I like to sit down and write down a list of things that, if I'm X% more profitable or whatever, what will change? What will open up to me? What will I be able to do or provide or stop doing if I make X amount more money or if I grow X%? And that really, really helps me in goal setting. It helps me come up with realistic expectations. And again, it really pulls me through those dark times and the times where I'm feeling sluggish and not motivated and just stalking competition and just feeling really down. So again, for me, these very specific goals helps a lot. And again, it's not just about money, it's also about time. It's also about your relationships, how your relationships could improve if you work less, if you can delegate more, if you have more options, again, more resources. So I hope that was helpful. I hope walking you through my process of motivating myself was at least a little bit beneficial to you. And again, if you like this type of video, if you want more of these like chat, talk through style videos, please let me know in the comments because I like doing them. Again, most of my clients are remote, so I don't get to sit and have these one-on-one conversations very often. I do travel and visit my clients all the time, but not as often as I would like. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I hope it was a little bit helpful, and I look forward to bringing you more of this content if you enjoy it. All right, have a great day, guys.